The AFL is not what it used to be. That's what everyone seems to be saying, at least, but is it fixable? I happen to think it is, and today we'll be exploring what I would do to fix the AFL if I were its God Emperor. I'll start with the easy fixes, the ones that the AFL can just plug into the current system without the radical restructuring that you all know is coming up. Okay, let's start with a gripe that everyone has: umpiring. The main issue, at least for me, is the rules that require interpretation. So, let's just eliminate all deliberate rules. That's deliberate rush behinds and insufficient intent. Umpires in 2025 can hardly seem to read the basic play, let alone players' minds, and there's been some howlers in this department, not just over the years, but today, as I'm filming this, the Collingwood-Adelaide game. Notwithstanding that past the first bounce, it's almost impossible to predict where the fuck one of these things is going to go. So, a kick intended for the wing could end up going to centre-half forward and vice versa. So let's just not punish that because it's just ridiculous. Like a kick like this from Leaguie, he's trying to keep that in play going down the line. It bounces and curves out of play. Why punish that? He's just trying to kick the ball up the field. Another umpiring change: simplify holding the ball. Sounds easy, yes, but this rule is all over the place. Put it into writing what exactly prior opportunity is to eliminate interpretation. I'm going to say 5 steps with ball in hand, or a fend-off attempt, or being spun 360 degrees in a tackle. Once a player has gotten into trouble in a tackle after any of these, give it to the count of 3 and then call it. Incorrect disposal also triggers after 5 steps. There, a lot of the interpretation gone, and players will know exactly what constitutes a free under this rule, and more importantly, exactly what they can get away with. Notice how I didn't say anything about bouncers, because those are out of here. The bounce was only introduced in the 1860s specifically to stop HCA Harrison from running away from a bunch of alcoholics, and policing the running too far rule is also interpretive. We want to eliminate that as much as possible and make officiating more consistent. Plus, the elimination of the bounce means more long-running plays which are fun and open up the game, which means less congestion, which everyone hates congestion. Oh, and the stand rule goes in the bin. I am sick of hearing the umpires yell stand, and the outside 5 rule shits me to tears. And I think that it's the dumbest thing in the league that a 50-metre advantage to another team is awarded just because a player takes 1 step on the mark when they're trying to read a player who's trying to play on. You can just fake playing on, make that man on the mark take a step, bang, free 50 metres for your team. It's stupid. Again, get rid. I'm also changing the play-on rule so that the whistle goes when the umpire calls play-on rather than move on, so that the man on the mark can focus on the ball. Could lead to more turnovers and scores from such turnovers, and less frustrating 50s from when the players try and do the right thing but misunderstand whatever the hell the umpire is trying to do. Finally, a scoring change. Well, a couple. Firstly, I'm eliminating the hit the post rule so our goalposts function like every other fucking goalpost in the world. No need for the ARC to have to zoom in on their little potato cameras from 1998, because if it hits the post and goes in through the big sticks, that's a goal. Rebounds out, play on. Point post works exactly the same way. Also, I'm happy to bring the Wizard Cup 3-pointer back. 3 points if a defender runs the ball through the posts without being tackled or passes it through in any way, shape or form. That stops the Joel Bowden/08 Hawks issue without much interpretive bullshit for the umpires to sift through, because there's a higher cost on a deliberate rush behind than just a regular one. Now, we all know the tribunal has to be changed, but how? I say that the existing matrix works well when it's used right. I would amend it so that footballing actions, i.e. tackles or bumps on the ball with the intent to win the ball or a free kick, carry a points discount, so that a legitimate tackle attempt that goes slightly wrong, i.e. Paul Curtis, doesn't carry 3 times the penalty of punching someone in the face off the ball. That's what we need to wipe out. Oh, and as for Jackson Archer, I'm bringing in a dead whistle provision so that if during a sanctioned action, if the accused party was fouled, like so, no penalty. Clear below the legs call missed. Poor Jackson. Then again, he got to miss North Melbourne games, so what's the real penalty? Moving on to draft night, I'm okay with father-sons, especially now that all the teams that anyone cares about have been around long enough to produce good players with kids of playing age. I think that if a team bids for a father-son or NGA, the team who has the rights to said player shouldn't match the bidding team's draft capital but have to beat it by, say, 10%, hello Bunnings, to add some sort of material cost, but whatever. I think NGA rights should be banned from the first round, as it's basically turning into country zoning light. If you don't remember country zoning, that was something that broke the league's competitiveness so badly the first time around that it sent most of the league bankrupt. And just for fun, I'd like to see teams be able to trade picks not just 1 but 2 years into the future. It could make trade deals more exciting and gives a chance for, I don't know, Essendon to get themselves into some real long-lasting shit deals. That seems like the sort of thing that they do. Real fun times. And the final easy change, the interchange. Get rid of interchange caps, get rid of the tactical sub, at least for Matty Nix's sake, and have a full bench of 5 with 1 dedicated sub for medical replacements only to prevent a club from being materially disadvantaged by, say, being sniped from long range. Looking at you, Dan. Also, let's get independent doctors to make those calls and not send a clearly concussed Alia out to embarrass himself or an internally bleeding Christian Petrarca out to almost die. How the hell this hasn't been instituted is just fucking incredible. And how are we not talking about Christian Petrarca more? They almost killed him. That should be news every week. Speaking of news, onto the media and TV coverage. No FTA footy on Saturdays is stupid. Let's change that. The broadcast agreement must include FTA football on each night, as well as 1 Saturday afternoon game and a Sunday game for a local team. No exceptions. And let's not only get rid of the floating fixture, but forbid it from coming back ever again. It's anti-consumerist bullshit that only drives up prices for travelling fans just so that the AFL can make more money for late season primetime games that still have no guarantee to be good. Isn't that right, Sydney and Port Adelaide? No one likes it. Also, Fox can do all the footy shows it wants to piss money on, but I'm making an agenda setters rule. Any media member can only do 1 TV show per week on days where footy isn't on. Do all the podcasts you want, just keep Kane Cornes off of my television as much as possible. Now the changes that require some but not a whole lot of systemic change. Firstly, making advanced stats as well as champion data and Fox footy metrics open to the public, even for a subscription fee that I would happily pay for. I'd do alright with basic stats, but I would love to have a go at what the Fox nerds have at their disposal. Speaking of payments, umpires. The AFL has enough money to pay all AFLM umpires a salary floor of, say, 80 grand at least. This will make them fully professional, which amazingly they're not now. Reportedly some have to do second jobs to make ends meet, which isn't good enough for $1 billion professional sports league. The AFLW will, of course, serve as a development ground for more junior umpires as its level of professionalism purely financially is still lower. Also, remember the pre-season cup? I want that back. 4 weeks, knockout bracket style with consolidation/practice games for the losers as they go on. It gets the gears turning early with more competitive football rather than whatever the fuck we have now, while still bringing football to suburban grounds. I was in Bury for an Adelaide Hawks game, and although they were using B teams, it was still so much fun. The Super Goal was also so much fun. Hell, let's bring that back too. Make the 50-metre arc a bit more useful rather than just something that's used for the 666 rules, and bring back the barrel. Now, my more fundamental changes, and they're big. We begin with scheduling. Pre-season cup starts in week 3 of February. 1 match every 5 days, and the season proper starts about week 3 of March, ensuring that the AFL always has an Easter weekend to cram in Thursday footy unopposed. For the record, I don't like Thursday football. I know a lot of people do, but I'm keeping it mainly because I'm adding teams. The season will be 19 rounds long with 20 clubs participating, all playing each other once. Team 20 is the Northern Territory, whilst I'm totally ignoring my conclusion to the North Melbourne series, which I'm currently doing right now, and I'm moving them to Canberra. I am so sorry. Like, genuinely I am. Also, Bulldogs, you're merging with Carlton, and you're going to like it. I'm not sorry. I don't really care about you. I want a team in New Zealand, and I like St Kilda way more than I like you, and so I need to open up a slot for a St Kilda team to come in. You're just the team that happened to be standing around. We'll give you a game in Ballarat. Although, if St Kilda does win a flag, I'm moving them to China. I can't have them be successful in any way, shape or form. It robs them of their definition and meaning to me. And I am the God Emperor and cannot be argued with. We also want the game to spread globally, so during one of the rounds, I'm thinking the split round, 2 teams will get $500,000 incentives, looking at you North Melbourne/Canberra, to sell a home game internationally to a rotating cast of venues such as the Oval, the Rose Bowl, one of those South African cricket grounds, or that Narendra Modi thing that hosts 1 billion people. The game's big enough in Australia. If you want to seriously challenge soccer, well, you take the women's game seriously, but also you internationally expand to take on those international markets, because you have to. I was going to rotate gather round, but no, Adelaide's perfect. Opening round, however, will be abolished, never to be reintroduced, and anyone who talks about it in the media will receive jail time. This means we have 6 extra weeks to fill with all the rounds we've culled. 3 will be filled by a mid-season State of Origin tournament. It will contain 2 divisions of 4 teams. Div 1 will, to start, be, of course, Victoria, South Australia, Western Australia and New South Wales, whilst Div 2 will be Tassie, the NT, Queensland and the Allies. The top 2 division team replaces the bottom 1 division team for next year's comp, and each game will be played across a separate weekend, all within the first 14 weeks of the season, so if there is a minor to medium level injury, players won't miss finals. This leaves us 3 spare weeks, and this is where it gets cool. I'm bringing back the Championship of Australia. This was a contest in which the premiers of the SAFA and VFA-VFL played off, later expanded into the NFL series that was a knockout tournament featuring the best teams from the VFL, the SANFL and the WANFL. This version, though, will be vastly different. Like the English FA Cup and the Australia Cup, teams of all levels are eligible, right down to amateur. Here's how ours will work. Regional teams and small city sides will nominate to join the Cup, with room for up to 900 teams nationwide, and play a regional playoff against their nearest team late in the prior season. The winners join the qualifying section, the first game of which will be played the next week. During the pre-season Cup and the start of the AFL season, every amateur team, winners of regional leagues and the regional playoff winners will play knockout games within their state across 4 weeks, gradually joined by higher teams from higher up the pyramids in their state as they go, as you'll see here. I believe I'm going to flick them through now. I'm going to leave a couple of seconds for each, because each state has a different sort of structure depending on how many teams I'm allowing them to have progress later on in the tournament, because things differ from how I've written them in my script here, because I've had to just change things so much. This all depends on each individual state's coefficient, which is basically how many teams I'm allowing to get into round 1 proper from each state. The final game of this qualifying section is played during gather round, while the State League teams have byes. This is where non-finalists from the State League and the bottom 4 AFL sides are dropped in, the final bosses for the amateur sides before we get to week 1 proper, the final 64. So, round 1 proper. For the AFL teams, all the non-finalists will automatically qualify, while the bottom 4 sides from the previous year will play off against each other, the top 2 from that going through to round 1 proper. As for the other states, 10 teams will qualify from Victoria, 8 from SA and WA, 4 each from Queensland and New South Wales, 2 from Tasmania and 1 each from both of the territories. However, some of these state slots are taken up by finalists or the top performing teams from each state league. All of these names are thrown into a hat and drawn. If you're, say, Old Peninsula, lounging around in the 4th division of Victorian amateur football and somehow got all the way here in the Victorian qualifications, you could be drawn against reigning SANFL Premier Glenelg. You could get lucky and land another Cinderella amateur side. Or, well, you could get West Coast. Good luck. Actually, you might win that. Of course, this marks the first time that teams will actually have to cross state borders, which represents added cost, but by this point, you've earned at least $8,000 of prize money by getting this far, with a further $31,250 guaranteed to come your way, even if you lose. This should ease that financial burden. The 24 winners get grouped in a pool with the AFL finalists, and the AFL teams may be drawn against each other, opening the door for a Cinderella story once the big boys knock each other out. The winners face off in the round of 16, the 4th extra week in our schedule that we needed to fill, with the 5th extra week being the quarterfinals and the final one being the semis. Now, Those 2 weeks leave us with a minimum of 12 AFL teams missing action in the quarters and 16 in the semis. That's not good. So to fill the gap, I propose a 2-stage Lightning Carnival. You have however many teams aren't playing in the Cup quarterfinals, they play off that week. If there's an odd number, whichever side is highest on the ladder automatically progresses. The winners then go to the final stage, pooled with the losing AFL teams from the previous Cup round that happened during the first stage of the Lightning Carnival. On the weekend that the semis are happening, from Thursday to Sunday, the AFL Lightning Carnival happens. 4 rounds across 4 days, each game being 2 20-minute halves with time on. The winner gets 500 grand of a $2 million prize pool, so there's plenty to play for. This means we'll really need to incentivise the Cup. The AFL has more than enough money to bandy about, so we'll give the Cup winner around $2 million, with the prize pool spread roughly like so, with amateur sides given double if they make it to round 1 proper. This means they get $62,500 for making it this far. Even for making the first qualifying round, the last round before even the worst state league sides enter, a club is assured around $4,000. That's decent money, equal to a top to mid-range sponsor depending on the level. That 500 grand for the Lightning Carnival is about equal to a semi-final exit, with a total prize pool of around $17.5 million, less than the league gives to the Suns each year. The final will be played in what I'm calling Super Week, the bye round before the finals. Pack it full of footy stuff. Monday, TAC Cup Grand Final. Tuesday, Wooden Spoon Day. The last place team sets up dunk tanks so the players can send the coach and the players into the briny deep to raise funds for the club's nominated charity. Wednesday, I was toying with a relegation playoff for this day but got rid of the concept. Instead, this is a fan day. All the clubs who've been eliminated from the finals are contractually obliged to have big fan meeting events. Should be good for both the fans and each club financially. Thursday night, E.J. Witten Legends match. Simple enough, bring it back, don't make it an AFLX thing this time. Friday night, AFLW All-Stars game to kick off the season. Games will be played on Wednesday and Thursday evenings until the finals end, because playing them on the same day is just stupid. Saturday, League Cup Final. Sunday, Futures game. The top 50 prospects in the country all play against each other. In addition, that weekend is set aside for the AFL Inclusivity Carnival, featuring AFL Wheelchair, AFL Blind and other tournaments. Super cool, gears us up for the finals, which are played in the usual fashion. No top 10s, please, for the love of God, just top 8s, as should be the way. Brownlow night is held the Monday before the granny, as per, with the medal reconstituted in the way I've mentioned previously, minus the fan vote. Let's fuck that off. I agree with you guys, silly idea. Then, the weekend after, once everyone's settled down, we cap everything off with an all-star game at Marvel, featuring the All-Australian first and second teams. Attendance is compulsory. Non-injured players will be fined for not competing, as with the state of origin. And there we go. Here's the calendar. We start in, the second week of February. The season starts proper halfway through March, and we end at the start of October. Pretty decent. That's it. That's what I would do if I was God Emperor of the AFL. What would you guys do? What would be the changes that you make? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know down below. Sorry I'm rushing this, because the third quarter has very much started at Adelaide Collingwood, and I thought I'd have more time at half-time to do this. I didn't think I'd write for about 1 million pages. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Sorry, this has been a bit rushed.